Hello, everyone. I'm Harrison.
And I'm Rachel.
This week, we're catching up on life with our baby from 3 to 5 months old. So stay tuned and join us on our journey to raise baby H.
Well, I have to say that we didn't plan to take a break as long as we did, but it was nice to be able to relax and spend some time with family during the holidays.
We had our episode about experiencing the holidays with a baby all recorded and just never got around to releasing it. So since it's no longer the holiday season, we're just going to recap some fun facts about what we've been up to and all the things that we've learned about Edison and parenting during our little break.
The day after Thanksgiving, Edison turned 3 months old. And what's been really fun is that his date of birth is the 26th. So whenever we take his monthly milestone pictures, it usually ends up being really close to a holiday, which has been really fun.
We spent Thanksgiving with my family, and after Thanksgiving, we went back to finish up loading in a theater project that we've been working on for about a month now. After the show was over, we were excited to get home and just really start to get into a routine with Edison, knowing it's going to be long term.
When we left for this theater production, Edison was 2 months old, and then we spent about 6 weeks away from home. So other than being home for the newborn stage, which was all kind of a blur, this was our first time being home and actually getting into a routine.
We've spent a lot of time figuring out how to travel with a newborn, and after we came home from this show, that is when we really got to figure out how do we do this at home and really just start to get into a groove. Thankfully, when we came back, I had 2 more weeks of my paternity leave, so we were able to get a little bit of extra family time and also figure out what that routine was before I had to start going back to work.
Around this time of Harrison getting ready to go back to work, we realized that we were going to need to make some changes to make our family a little bit more functional in the day-to-day. So with Harrison going back to work, I was going to be staying home with Edison. That was something that we had kind of decided before he was even born. And during this time, he still was not sleeping through the night, and I was still exclusively pumping.
So the first difficult decision that we had to make when we were getting into this routine was that Rachel was going to stop pumping and we were going to make the transition to formula. Now, we have worked really hard to do the breastfeeding thing, and Rachel has been pumping a lot, and we've invested a lot of time, energy, and knowledge into this. But it was becoming apparent really, really fast when I would go work for church and be gone for most of the day, or Rachel would be by herself with Edison for just a couple of hours, that pumping and taking care of him at the exact same time was really, really difficult and adding a lot of unneeded stress to our lifestyle.
There were a couple other factors that came into this decision. So the biggest one was that it was taking a huge mental toll on me. I was just kind of getting worn down, feeling like I wasn't spending a lot of time taking care of Edison. And honestly, that kind of scared me. I felt like I was going to be alone with him, and I didn't know my baby very well because when I would pump, Harrison would feed him and take care of him.
Because Rachel was spending so much time and energy on pumping, it has left me doing a lot of those things that Rachel wishes she could have done. When I'm at work, she's not really going to be able to rely on me to do all of that stuff. So we just needed to restructure how all of that worked. And the easiest way to make a huge change was to switch to formula. And there's nothing wrong with formula. And in all of our research that we had done before Edison had got here, we actually have found and personally believe that there is almost no benefit for the baby. It's all for the mom.
The other reason is that while I was working on this theater production, I had slowed down my milk supply and the amount that I was pumping so that I didn't have to worry about it during the long rehearsals and tech and performances. I just wanted to be able to pump right before and not have to worry about it until I was done with work for the day. So during the show, we used up my freezer stash, which I had about 300 to 400 ounces in the freezer. So I was still pumping about 4 or 5 times a day, and then we would use the freezer stash as a supplement. And that got us through that production.
Rachel was very fortunate to have a slight overproduction. So she was making just a little bit more than what Edison needed. So we had this stash that was slowly growing and we really didn't have to think about it a whole lot. And it made it very nice during the show But when we came back and we were running out of our freezer supply, and Rachel was having a little bit of difficulty ramping her production back up. So we had to sit down and just have an honest conversation about what was it going to take to get Rachel's supply back up, and is that something we're interested in doing?
And you can get your supply back up. I've seen many, many people increase a low supply. It takes a lot of work and effort. And I knew it was possible, but with Harrison going back to work, and I was already feeling like the 4 to 5 times a day was kind of taking a toll on me. We just decided that the amount of effort that it was going to take to get back to where I was just going to be too hard with Harrison gone.
One of the things that weighed pretty heavily into our decision whether we should switch or not was actually that we'd be seeing a lot of family over the holidays. So Rachel was really hesitant to switch to formula right before Christmas because we knew we would be seeing a lot of family. Some of them have never met Edison before at all, and they knew that we were breastfeeding, but they would probably be surprised by this decision to switch, and we felt like we were going to have to validate that to everybody.
There were a lot of emotions about, feeling like I kind of failed Edison in a way because it's recommended that you make it at least 6 months, but now I think they're recommending up to 2 years if you can. And so it was kind of like the decision of like, am I being selfish in a way? Like, because I'm not continuing to do this, and what are other people going to think? But you can't worry about all that stuff. Like, you just have to take care of yourself and your family.
And, a lot of those recommendations that say that breastfeeding is best and that that's what you're supposed to do, maybe breastfeeding versus formula, it provides better food for your kid and that is better. But us switching from breastfeeding to formula has allowed Rachel to be a lot more present as a parent. And that in the long term is more beneficial than the way he's consuming calories, because switching over to formula, he's still getting those calories, and that is going to allow us to be better parents and just have a better family dynamic. And that is more appealing to us than being able to say that Rachel breastfed him until 6 months old or however old it would have been.
So around Christmas, Edison turned 4 months old, and we rotate holidays. So we spent Christmas Day with my family, and then shortly after, we traveled to see Harrison's family. It was really nice because anyone that hadn't met Edison by this point got to meet him over this holiday.
There's still a few people in my family that haven't gotten a chance to meet him because they live on like the other side of the country. And, I think that that's just kind of expected, but it was really nice to be able to see a lot of Rachel's family that hadn't gotten to see Edison yet. And there were a couple people on my family that were able to get the chance to see and interact with Edison.
So when we came back after the new year, we decided to really dive in with sleep training. So the entire time that I was pumping, Harrison was on paternity leave. He had 4 months off. So he did the nights. And that didn't mean that he was the only one getting up at night. At first, we would both get up, I would pump, and he would feed Edison. But as I started to slow down my supply and when I started working again, I stopped pumping overnight so that I could be more functional during the day. So at this point, Harrison was the only one getting up at night, and we knew that this just wasn't reasonable with him going back to work.
We actually waited to make this decision until after I started. And there were about like 3 days where I'd go to work, I'd come home, and then when Edison was in bed, I would do the night shift. And it just proved to be very difficult really fast. It was just becoming really taxing. I was getting up like 6, 7 times a night just to do little stuff for Edison. And, it's definitely not as much time or as effort that Rachel would be putting in during the workday, but I also was getting up and going to work. So we needed a better solution really, really fast. So we decided to start looking into sleep training and how we could do that as quickly as possible.
So there's a course called, or a company called Taking Care of Babies, and they had really great reviews. I've seen them a lot on social media, so we decided to try it out. And it only took 1 week for him to be sleeping 10 hours through the night.
And this course is set up to take 14 days. So we were kind of surprised that after just a week, he was only needing to get up like once to eat during the night or something like that. And we really only had one really rough night of his sleep training. We'll talk a little bit more in a separate episode about what we did to get him sleeping through the night, but even now, he is sleeping about 12 hours every single night, and he sleeps pretty much straight through, and we don't have to get up anymore, which is really, really helpful for Rachel and I to make it through the day.
So, overall, it's been really nice to be back in our own house, in our own space, and really establish how we want to do our day to day with Edison.
But if you know us, you know that we don't really stay at home for a very long time without taking a trip. So we definitely have quite a few trips planned out in the near future and are looking forward to all the challenges that that's going to bring.
So much has happened in the past 2 months that the beginning stages when things were really hard almost seem like a blur.
Next time, we're going to talk about transitioning from breast milk to formula. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.